I want you to imagine that you walk into your bedroom and sitting on a chair at the desk that you have in your bedroom is a real, live koala. You know that furry animal that comes from Australia? There's one of those, sitting on the chair at the desk in your bedroom. And I want you to imagine what the first 3 things are that you would do if you saw that. Whatever your answer is, those first 3 things that you're likely to do might either cue your noticer or your advisor. I've asked hundreds of people this question, and I've asked teenagers and smaller children in the clinic that exact same question. And people say things like, I'd run and take a photo, or I'd go and get help, or I'd wonder what it was doing there. All of those are an example of the way you use the thing we call the advisor. It's simply a way of presenting someone with a novel situation and then finding out how they respond to that. You might notice your heart race if you saw a koala, and that would be noticing. Or you might step into the place of problem solving, that place of trying to work out, what should I do? How do I fix a problem? Why is this even here in my bedroom? And what's really interesting about this exercise is you'll get all sorts of different examples. When I ask people in Europe or the UK, they sometimes say, oh, I'd go up and hug it, or I'd go and pat it. If you ask people in Australia, they'll always say, oh, I'd step right back, because our advisor is influenced by our learning history. People in Australia know that koalas have really long claws and they tend to be smelly, so you don't want to go too close to a wild one. But people in the UK and Europe, their advisor has been taught that koalas are cute and furry and you could go and pat them. So all of these are just really kind of fun ways of beginning to introduce the advisor. And most times, I do introduce the advisor like that with a young person. I'll give them a novel experience, one that I'm sure they've probably never had before, like having a koala in their bedroom, and ask them to tell me what would happen next. And then as they begin to unfold and we laugh and talk about what they might do next, I can then say, you know all that? That's what we call giving yourself advice, telling yourself what you should do about something that's presented in your life. And so the advisor is just another word for describing how you approach a situation and how you try to solve it. You can use any word you want. You don't have to use advisor. We use advisor because it creates a nice distancing effect. But depending on the culture and the language, your first language that you're using DNAV in, you might decide to change that word or any of the words in DNAV, and that's okay. What we want to do is get the whole concept that humans have this language ability and that we're constantly using it. So where does your advisor come from? Well, we said in the previous module that humans are born already set to notice. We're born as noticers. And initially, we don't really have an advisor. Your advisor is learning how to use your language and cognitions. It's learning how to approach things and how to solve things and how to think about things. And so we don't really have an advisor when we're born. In the beginning, your carers or parents are your advisor. When you're a tiny little baby, they'll look at you and say, you need to sleep, right? And they will speak for you. You look thirsty, even if you're 2 weeks old. It doesn't take very long before we start to learn how to use language and communicate ourselves. Eventually, you end up with a toddler who says, I'm not tired. I don't need to sleep. And they begin to learn how to navigate their own life with language. And so really the advisor is a way of thinking about how we begin to develop language and learn how to use this verbal behaviour, language and cognition to decide what we want to do and what we need to do next and how to fix problems. So you can think of advisor, we often call it the place of language or verbal behaviour. And it covers the specific behaviours of saving us from having to use trial and error. So we can use our learning to problem solve, to create rules, to tell ourselves what we should do, to use our beliefs, our judgments, and our evaluations to pretty much navigate any situation that comes across. And by the time you get to the teenage years, you've got all of that learning history behind you around what people do, how things happen in the world, and what you should do next. And then there's an explosion of language. In the adolescent years, suddenly the world is no longer just a small child and their family, but it gets bigger. There's people, and there's the ability to find out how to be independent. And that explosion of cognitions and understanding in the adolescent years sends us off into a very big self-evaluative place. Who am I? How do I fit in? How do I solve these problems? How do I connect with a bigger social world? So we want young people to know that the way they see the world is unique to them. That's why we call it your advisor. It's unique to them. No one sees the world in the same way they do, because it's based on our learning history and all of the experiences that we've had. We only have one advisor. It's a part of us. So when I work with teenagers, I say, we have the ability as humans to tell ourselves what to do. Like I can talk to myself and saying, I'm doing a good job today, or I'm not. And we call that giving yourself advice. Is that okay if we call it your advisor? And they'll just say, yeah, sure. And from there we begin to build up the language of this ability we have inside ourselves to problem solve and to use our history to predict what will happen next.
So I thought we'd do a couple of fun experiments to experience our advisor and get to know the advisor. Okay, so this one is, we can do it with our eyes open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something. And I want you to say it quietly to yourself. And your job is just to notice what shows up. Okay, so I'm going to say about 6 or 7 things. And you're just going to notice what your advisor says. Okay? So I'm not thinking this of you. I'm not saying this about you. I'm going to say it about myself. But you're going to repeat it. And we'll see. We'll just see what happens. You guys ready for an interesting experiment? You could do this eyes closed or eyes open, however you want to do it. You ready? I might. All right, ready? Here's the first sentence. I am perfect. Interesting. Are you noticing what's showing up with curiosity? I am completely broken. I am awesome. I am a horrible person. Just notice. Just notice. That's all we're doing. I am whole and complete. I am a good person. I am a bad person. I am beautiful. Okay. Being a noticer means just being curious what shows up. What did you notice in that exercise? It's interesting, wasn't it? I could see a lot of reactions, like you guys were reacting very strongly. I actually saw some people go like this to the positive things. What showed up for you? So my advisor curses a bit, and it will, when I'm whole and complete, it just says bullshit. It's just automatic. Did you guys find that it was kind of automatic? And how did it respond to the positive things? Yes.
It laughs.
It laughed.
Yeah, just laughs. Like, no.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It happens to me. Anybody else have an interesting experience with the positives, Sam?
Well, some of them, like the I'm whole and complete, it's kind of like, well, no, you're not, but that's all right. But then some of the other ones were like, you're a bad person. It's like, yeah, you are.
Oh, so it was agreeing.
Sometimes it was like, it's all right. You don't have to be perfect. Other times it was like, yeah, you suck.
Okay. Wow. Do you see how easy it is to get the advisor going? Do you see how I'm just putting random, I say these same words just for this exercise. They have nothing to do with you. And yet those words had the power to get your advisor going. And you're even agreeing with your advisor's agreeing with the negative things. Thanks a lot, advisor. What about the negative things? How else did people respond to it? Did anybody's advisor? Yes.
My advisor sort of like agreed, and then it was like, wait, no, but your friends are saying this. But then it was like contradicting what my friends had said to me.
Yes.
As well.
So that's a really nice example of the advisor behavior. See how busy it was? It was like, yeah, that's bad things true. Oh, wait, your friends were that. Yeah, but this, and yeah. Very nice. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
My advisor was like, yeah, sometimes. Like, sometimes you're a bad person. Sometimes you can be good. Sometimes.
Yeah. So it's trying to figure out the exact amount of badness and goodness,
It's just like, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, not no, but not yes.
But it's not staying out of it. It's like your advisor is going to come in and say something at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to have the last word.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Yes.
It gives like reasons for like why you're not or why you are.
Interesting. Wow. And these are just words I'm saying. And here we are in a room. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful Saturday. I put some words out there. They don't mean anything. But your advisors means like, yeah, but sometimes you're like this. Sometimes you're like that. You're suddenly, whoosh, Charlotte's like off with her advisor, kind of having this big discussion. And this is part of what makes life kind of hard is that the advisor just gets triggered so much. But what we're doing here is a really beautiful skill. You're noticing your advisor. And so you can see Charlotte is so present right now with me. I can just see it. She noticed her advisor was doing it, and she came back into the room. And that is kind of one of our key skills with the advisor is to know how to, oh, there's my advisor, just kind of disengage from it and come back into the present moment. And you'll also notice, did you notice the more extreme I said something, the more your advisor got involved? So can you see the downside of trying to tell yourself super positive things? I am awesome, I'm incredible, I'm a genius. No, you're not. So maybe kind of that experience, I hope that experiment gives you a chance to see, trying to think really positive things or even negative things. There's no peace in doing that because your advisor is always going to have something else to say. And sometimes that's not productive. And the best move we have is just to notice my advisor's doing its thing and to just disengage and come back into the present moment like you did just now.